or
Yeah, you go ahead and start, Mataji. No
okay,
worries.
okay. So let's thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Um, so we are going to discuss some concepts from Bhagavad Gita today. So let's start with prayers. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhya Eva Cham Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam bhangam langayate girim Yatkripātamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinatarinam. Okay, so today we wanted to discuss about a very interesting topics from Bhagavad Gita. This is humility and pridelessness. It comes in chapter 13 from verses 8 to 12. So far we have been seeing about the philosophical concepts in Bhagavad Gita, the 5 major topics, and then chapter wise summary, how one chapter connects to another chapter. And also we saw the essence of all the Bhagavad Gita and the 4 shlokas. So now we'll be concentrating on the Abhideya process. That means the process of how to execute the instructions of Bhagavad Gita or Krishna and what it requires. So because Bhagavad Gita is a practical book, it's not a theoretical book where we can read, cram, memorize all the shlokas and the translations and write it down and we can claim that, I have finished Bhagavad Gita. It's not like that because, it's a practical book and it depends on how much we are able to practice. It's not easy and it's not an overnight thing that, I read this, I know that this is all my faults and this is what I have to practice and let me start practicing. It doesn't happen like that. But at least when we start practicing, we will stumble upon so many obstacles like a crawling child trying to stand up and starting to walk. But then, even if we fall down, we have to repeatedly get up and try to cross this path. And we will realize so many things in this path by doing this. So this is one of the very famous section of Bhagavad Gita. It is in chapter 13. Chapter 13 is nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. And amazingly, Arjuna is asking some questions. Let me go to the chapter 13 till 7. What he asks is that, what is the field? Text 1 and 2, if we see, okay, text 1 and 2, Arjuna said, "Oh, my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, Purusha, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge." So, this is his question. What is he asking? Nature, Prakriti, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge. For that, Krishna is answering, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field. And one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." So, after explaining what is the field and what is its activity, and then he comes to text 5 and 6 and 7. The knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. I mean, amazing. And after that, text 8 to 12, he says about what he considers as knowledge. And he is giving a decisive statement that besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So what is that he considers as knowledge? Let's see. Anyone wants to chant? Maybe we can all take turns chanting each verses.
First one, can I read the first verse, Mataji?
Yes, Lala.
Aman itvam adam pitvam aham isa
Ahimsa,
ahimsa shantir
Arjavam,
arjavam acharya pashanam socham
Stairyam,
Stariyam Atma Vingaraya.
Vinigraha. Okay. Anyone wants to try the next one?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I will
Hare
try.
Krishna.
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna. I will try Mataji. Indriya Espresu Vairagyam Ahankara Evacha
Anahankara.
Anahankara Evacha Janma Murtyu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshan Darshanam.
Perfect. Thank you. So this is the third one.
Mataji, my Prabhu want to read.
Yes, please.
This sloka.
Saktir anabhiswangaha putradara grihadishu nityam cha samachitatvam istanisto abatisu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else wants to try?
Can I try, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
fourth one, Mataji. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir avyabhicharini vivikta desha sevitvam aratir jana samshadi. Correct,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Shanti Mataji. Very nice recitation.
Mataji, I can do. Adhyatmanyana nityatvam tattvajnanarthadarsanam etat jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yad ato anyata.
Thank you, Mataji. So here is a translation. Humility. So what we are going to do is, I'm going to read it slow enough so we can, if we see, we can try to map or try to reflect on the meaning of that quality. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. So he's conclusively he's saying that this is knowledge. Surprising, right? So in another place, he has described that knowledge means knowing matter, spirit, and the controller of both. Dhira, or one who is knowledgeable, one who is sober, is called Dhira. But here you see this is the process. This is something that we practice. So if we have all these things, or if you're practicing all these things, then he declares that to be knowledge. And other than that, whatever it is, that is ignorance. So since, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one who studies Bhagavad Gita worships me by his intelligence. So by reading again and again, by contemplating, and then by seeing of examples how great devotees have followed this, because even if we don't have even one of this, then we are not pleasing the Lord. We see that these are all required to perform devotional service. But what Srila Prabhupada says in the purport is that the most important of this is that Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. So constant and unalloyed devotion to me. So if this constant and unalloyed devotion to him is there, Srila Prabhupada says, but if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. So what is it? The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. See, very nicely he says, I wish I can go to Veda base and show that. How do I do that, Mataji?
Just stop this one sharing, Mataji. Open another way. You open the browser and you can share that one.
But then if I have to come back here, can't I alternate between this and that?
Yes, you can do that. You can do that, Mataji. Just clicking only, Mataji. The selection only is there. When you share,
Okay.
it will ask whether you want this one or that one. That's it.
Oh, okay. Let me open database. I'm so sorry for the trouble. I thought, you can all read also. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, let's go to 13 and 8 to 12. And we did the shloka and the translation and then the purport. Yeah. The process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent as being the interaction of the field of activity. Means only material knowledge. But actually, this is a real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. If we don't accept this process, then the possibility even doesn't exist of approaching the absolute truth. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements, and the process of knowledge as described here is the means to get out of it. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Mai chananya yogena bhakti ravyabhicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unallowed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.18.12, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunaistatra Samasate Suraha. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. The principle of accepting a spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins. That's why it's called initiation. When one accepts a bona fide spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. So, going back to okay. So here is a mapping of this 20 elements of knowledge. Amanitvam, humility, what it means is no expectation of respect. Adambitvam, pridelessness, not being anxious to be famous. So both are very close and both can be like complementary to each other. But pridelessness is, it's the starting point, and then humility is like, in depth of it. Ahimsa, non-violence. We will see all these things, but we are just reading to understand, because Prabhu, this is from Subodhini, he has nicely put what each one from the purport what Srila Prabhupada describes. Not putting others into distress. Shantir, tolerance, bearing insults and dishonor. Arjavam, simplicity, straightforward and non-diplomatic. Acharyopasanam, serving a bona fide guru without motivation. Saucham is cleanliness, both internal, that is body, and internal is mind, and external is body, external. Okay. Stairyam, steadiness, determined to progress in spiritual life. Atma Vinigraha, self-control, rejecting unfavorable things. Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification. Anahankara evacha, ahankara is false ego, and anahankara is no false ego or no identification with body. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam, perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease that they give rise to suffering. Asaktir Anabhisvanga Putra Dara Grihadishu, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtopapatishu, even mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Maija Nanya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini, constant and unalloyed devotion to me with undeviating attention. We see, right, inattentive chanting, it's also offensive to be inattentive chanting. Krishna clearly, so many places he says, exclusive attention. Vivikta Desha Sevitvam, secluded living, living in devotee association. Aratir Jana Samsadi, detachment from the general mass of people. Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam, accepting the importance of self-realization. Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam, philosophical search for the absolute truth. It's like a huge thing to cross, but Srila Prabhupada has made it so simple to understand, but it's still, we have to practice it. We can read it, we can memorize it, we can give classes on it, but then practicing is something that we need to consciously endeavor to practice it. And just because we consciously endeavor to practice it doesn't mean that we can. We will realize that and then we surrender to the Lord. That's why he says that if we perform devotional service, everything else follows automatically. Without devotional service, all the others are of no use. So this is again 16:1 to 3. Here also, many of the things are repeated and much more are added. Anybody wants to recite these verses?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I go?
Yes, Mataji.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhir Gnana Yoga Vyavastitih Dhanam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayas Tapa Arjavam. Thank you, Mataji.
Very nice, Gita Mataji. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to do the next verse?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I can
Yeah,
Mataji.
yes.
Yeah. Ahimsa satyam akrodhas tyaga shantir apaishunam daya bhuteshvalo luptvam mardvam hrira chapalam.
Thank you, Shivani Mataji.
One more has to read, Mataji.
Yeah, you can read it.
Okay. Teja Kshama Triti Saucham Adroho Nati Manita Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim Abhijatasya Bharata. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So, translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness. This is in chapter 16, and he's telling that these are the qualities of divine qualities. The first three, they are saying it's divine qualities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, sattva samshuddhi. Jnana yoga vyavastitihi is cultivation of spiritual knowledge. Dhanam, charity. Dhammam, self-control. Yajnascha, yajna, performance of sacrifice. Swadhyayas, study of the Vedas. Tapa is austerity. Arjavam, simplicity. Ahimsa is non-violence. Satyam, truthfulness. Akrodhas, krodha is anger, so akrodha is freedom from anger. Tyaga, renunciation. Shantir, tranquility. Apaishunam, aversion to fault finding. Daya, compassion for all living entities. Daya bhuteshu. Aloluptvam, freedom from covetousness, means trying to cheat, having an agenda. Mardhavam, gentleness. Hrir achapalam is modesty. Tejaha, steady determination, vigor. Hrir is modesty and achapalam is steady determination. Teja is vigor. Shama is forgiveness. Dhritihi is fortitude. Saucham is cleanliness. Adroho, freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. Nati manita. Bhavanti Sampadam Daivim. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. Abhijatasya Bharata. So, we also have an aspiration so that in Krishna's eyes, we will be seen as men or women or whatever, that's according to the body, but his devotees endowed with divine nature. So that's what he wants from us. So in this, in the previous, we saw these different qualities. So we are going to discuss one or two qualities every week with reference to these qualities mentioned in other places in Bhagavad Gita, maybe the shlokas or the translation. So first quality is humility. So for this, let me go to so first definition of humility comes in this. Yeah. As far as the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. It's such a deep statement. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Because if we do that, that means if you're anxious, if we are satisfied by being honored by others, how is it humility? How is it okay, let's read the whole paragraph and then discuss. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the viewpoint of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. Prabhupada calls honor and dishonor as material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a test to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these items. So the satisfaction of being honored by others comes. It is there because of the material conception of life. Because we think that I am this body and I am so and so, and I am a devotee and I am so and so, and then so people have to honor me like that. It's so deeply, it is subtle. So what happens is when it comes out, we don't even know that it is there. This is called material identification of life. It's not that for no reason Srila Prabhupada repeated again and again and again. Every single lecture, he talks about bodily concept of life and being away. You're not this body, your soul. Why? Because it's not easy. By our actions, by our thoughts, and by how we react, we can make an analysis of how much we are in the spiritual concept of life and how much we are in the material concept of life. We are doing devotional service, bhakti yoga, but doing devotional service or bhakti yoga and chanting with material conception of life is like rowing the boat so fast but anchoring it. We have forgot to remove the anchor. So this we see that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur very nicely explains that there was a marriage party and everybody wanted to get into the boat and they are rowing. It was night. They were all dressed up and they got into the boat. Then they kept rowing the whole night, and then the next day when the light came, they are all so surprised they are in the same village. Why? Because they did not move the take off the anchor. So this is through the story he's explaining to us how if we are not taken the anchor of material conception of life off, then we may be rowing, but again and again, but we are in the same place. So this is this. I mean, when we encounter being dishonored and how we react, that shows that what we are thinking about ourselves in the mind. Once in the Mayapur TV, I heard a lecture by one Prabhu. He was giving a lecture. I don't remember his name, but he was kitchen in charge, and we all know His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He knows many, at least around I think 6-7 languages, and he knows Vastu science, and he's the one who designed the Chennai temple in such a way according to Vastu science and according to the Graha thing that the sunlight comes exactly in the place, and there are chakras all around the temple, and that's why even people they just come inside and they stand in the chakra, that so much vibration is there. And then he's a Reiki master, and I mean, he has translated so many of Goswami's books from Sanskrit to English, and he gives classes. I mean, you can go on YouTube. And he was once he was just walking in the in Mayapur from the Prasadam hall, and there was this devotee who was very desperately looking for helping hands to clean the kitchen and wash the pots and other things. He was left all alone. So he came outside, and Maharaj, if you see, he's so simple. I mean, he was walking alone, so he thought that okay, he's actually Canadian born, Japanese origin, and he also is mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's Leelamrita. Srila Prabhupada says that he's like lotus, Bhanu is like lotus. So he's walking, and this devotee comes out and say, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you please help me give a hand in the kitchen because it's cleaning? And he might have been going to a class, or he's preparing, he's writing books, he's translating, but he didn't say a word. He came and he did all that job for 3 hours non-stop. And then next day, this devotee is sitting in the Bhagavatam class, and Bhanu Maharaj is giving Bhagavatam class. So he was shocked to see. So then when he gave the class, he asked apology to Maharaj that, please forgive me that I didn't know who you are. I engaged you in this service. But Maharaj said, no problem. This is Krishna's desire that he engaged me like that. So, I mean, this was so, I heard this long back, but this stood out so nicely about the quality of humility. I mean, Maharaj could have answered that, oh, I am going, I have to translate some book, or I have to do something. but he just accepted it. I mean, some bhakta giving him a service, and he did it with all his non-stop. He didn't even speak a word, it seems, throughout the 3 hours of working in the kitchen, one after another, tough jobs, cleaning big pots, taking the dirt out. And so I was, so this is humility. Not being anxious. What it is, mainly material conception of life makes us pride. In spiritual conception of life, if we are there always, then we will not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, again in his Vaishnava Ke, he calls honor from someone is like sukarer vishta, stool of a pig. Pig is already a animal known to eat stool, and its stool is a refined stool. I mean, we were just reading Vaishnava K book, so I was just reminded of this. So, but the whole material world around us is behind this one thing: how to get honor. Even if it's in the bad sense, how to become famous. How to become famous as this thing and that thing, and I mean, famous for notorious reasons. Somehow we need to become famous, because that is the quality of material world of passion. And we see all around us, it is filled with that. But then the spiritual quality is different. So what else he says? Okay. So here again, a sannyasi is supposed to beg from door to door for his livelihood. But this does not mean that he's a beggar. Humility is also one of the qualifications of a transcendently situated person. And out of sheer humility, the sannyasi goes from door to door, not exactly for the purpose of begging, but to see the householders and awaken them to Krishna consciousness. So this is the duty of the sannyasi. So the point is, he's explaining the uh, uh, thing of a sannyasi, and we can see that humility is one of the main qualifications. See, if it is not number one in the list, why would Krishna mention it as a first one, amanitvam? It starts with that. And we see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so humble. And if we read the interactions between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatan Goswami, and especially with Pradyumna Mishra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is saying that he would be moved by seeing a wooden doll of a woman. What a kind of a sannyasi he is. I mean, how much humility it is there. He is saying to Sanatan Goswami that I become purified by embracing you. And he is saying to Sanatan Goswami that your humility breaks my heart. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give this only. Of all the 8 verses, if you see, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna. These are the 2 primary qualities that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is expecting from a devotee. So this purport proves that. And then again in 8.28, Vedeshu yajneshu tapashu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerities, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So, in this, again, one aspect of humility Srila Prabhupada is giving. This verse is a summation of the 7th and the 8th chapters, which particularly deal with Krishna consciousness and devotional service. One has to study the Vedas under the guidance of the spiritual master and undergo many austerities and penances while living under his care. A brahmachari has to live in the home of the spiritual master just like a servant, and he must beg alms from door to door and bring them to the spiritual master. He takes food only under the master's order, and if the master neglects to call the student for food that day, the student fasts. These are some of the Vedic principles for observing brahmacharya. I say because I read in Mahatma Prabhu's quote, if you want to be humble, Krishna will send people on your way who will humiliate you, and he will see you how you react. So in the previous Gurukula system, you see that humility is very, very important. They know that the spiritual master trains the disciple in that. He doesn't mince words. We see Srila Prabhupada being very heavily, chastising many devotees. Many of you may have many stories for that. But then, more than what Srila Prabhupada has praised, the devotees relish and cherish and remember what he has chastised. Because only Guru can be heavy and he knows our faults. So the first of all, even if it was Krishna, Krishna went to Sandipani Muni and he was sent to beg alms from door to door. Great kings, Rama was also sent to Gurukula, and he did this. No matter whether he was a prince, whether it is Drupada, the big rich kingly Drupada, or the Brahmana Dronacharya, both are equal there. Both have to go, must beg alms from door to door and bring them. And they don't protest if the spiritual master doesn't call. Sometimes the spiritual master wantedly neglects the student so that to call the food, but the student doesn't protest, doesn't ask, just fasts. So this is how they train. Humility cannot be practiced theoretically. I mean, we need to practice it. One time, Srila Prabhupada, somebody asked Srila Prabhupada how to be humble. He said, by being humble. So this is from 8.28. In 10.34, again, anyone wants to read this verse?
I can read. मृत्यु सर्वहरश्चाहम् उभवश्च भविष्यताम् कीर्ति श्रीर्वाक् च नारीणाम् स्मृतिर्मेधा धृति क्षमा.
Thank you, Mataji. I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. This is the second part of the purport. The seven opulences listed: fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience are considered feminine. If a person possesses all of them or some of them, he becomes glorious. If a man is famous as a righteous man, that makes him glorious. Sanskrit is a perfect language and is therefore very glorious. If after studying one can remember a subject matter, he is gifted with a good memory or smriti. And the ability not only to read many books on different subject matters, but to understand them and apply them when necessary is intelligence. Meda, another opulence. The ability to overcome unsteadiness is called firmness or steadfastness, dhriti. And when one is fully qualified, yet is humble and gentle, and when one is able to keep his balance both in sorrow and in the ecstasy of joy, he has the opulence called patience. So very nicely, Srila Prabhupada is describing that these, not that women consider this, but these are considered feminine. And so here we see that, honor also comes among in devotees path. So if he becomes famous, and he becomes famous for the righteous reason, like Srila Prabhupada, one reporter asked him that, you have done so much. Are you not something he asked exactly? I don't remember. Being Are you not proud that you accomplished something that no one has ever accomplished so far? And he said that if at all there is any credit due to me, that is because I sincerely tried to execute the order of my Guru Maharaj. And in what circumstances he tried? Absolutely no one in the world would even consider him sane if he says that, I'm going to go to a foreign country where no much Indians, I don't know anyone, I don't have a support of the government, I don't have money, I have very less visa, but I have a huge goal to change the way people think there, to fight against the materialism and bring spiritualism as a mainstream happening in the American society. What a goal! And that too, that goal is because to please his spiritual master. So this is humility. He has all these qualities, yet he is always humble and gentle. One more thing is that Shivananda Prabhu used to share this, that one time when he was with Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada asked him, uh, can you offer prayers for me? Something like that. And he said that, oh, what are my prayers worth? And he said, I mean, I'm not a devotee yet, Srila Prabhupada. And he says, no. Who said? Why not? Your prayers will be heard. See, Srila Prabhupada, this was way back in, I think, 1969 or 70. And he's asking his disciple to pray for him. And when he's saying that I'm not at a devotee, he says, no, you are. And why not? Why not? Your prayers will have an effect. And he always called his disciples by Prabhu, Yamuna Prabhu, even Mataji's and Prabhu and his Prabhuji's, his disciples. Many times he has called with Prabhu. And we heard recently in Bhakti Charu Maharaj's memories also, how he went out to buy an orange, and because of that he was late, and when he entered the kitchen already Prabhupada was ringing, and then 5 minutes later he kept on ringing the bell, and Maharaj, immediately he rushed through, and when he came, he forgot to bring water to wash and towel to wipe, and when he's bringing, Srila Prabhupada is telling, no, take it back, I don't want. But then he knew, he knew that he was angry, but he slowly, went ahead, slowly offering that drink, orange juice that he had made for him. And finally, Srila Prabhupada accepted this. Then he went inside, ran and quickly bought the water. Then he forgot that he didn't bring the towel. He ran and again got the towel. Then Srila Prabhupada said that, please don't mind me. I have become old. So, sometimes old people behave like young children. And so Maharaj is saying that, he got tears in his eyes. If Prabhupada chastises, that he can accept. But this thing he says that, no, Srila Prabhupada, you are training us and it is my mistake, I'm late. Please don't tell like this. So Srila Prabhupada was so humble. Many devotees, they recollect a lot of pastimes with that, how he is the abode of humility. So with all these qualities also, if a person is humble and gentle, so that's the thing. So we know this famous verse, and it also speaks about humble sages. Anyone wants to read?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I will try.
Mataji,
Okay, both of you can read. Yeah, Venkat Prabhu, you go ahead, and after that Balavrinda.
Sure, Mataji. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Astini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshanaha. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, now Balavrinda.
Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Ramanye Kavi Hastine Sane Jaiva Sapakecha Pandita Samadarshina.
What happened? Suddenly you're saying so slow.
Mataji, I only told her sing in a tune. Mataji will be surprised by your slowness today.
Yeah, and you see, this must be your favorite shloka because this has your mother's name.
Yeah, whenever she says Vinaya, Vinaya, she shouts there.
What's the meaning of Vinaya, Balavrinda?
Humble.
Yes, humility. Vidya, Vinaya, Sampanne. Vidya is knowledge and Vinaya is humility. So Sampanne means being endowed with. So the humble sages, because humility is the symptom of knowledge. If a person is knowledgeable and wise, then he will automatically be humble. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Because Prabhupada says in the purport that he sees them first of all not as their body but as spirit souls, and second he sees the presence of the super soul. Imagine if only we could see like this, what it will be. When we see someone, we see that, this person is American, Indian, African American, this is a dog, this is a cat, and oh, this person is Telugu speaking, this person is Hindi, this person is Tamil. So all these are like outer coverings. So if at all we can see the presence of the soul and the super soul, at least in the beginning, and then see that outer covering, and if we practice that, then slowly we will, by the mercy of the Lord, cease to see the outer covering and only see the presence of the soul and the super soul. Yeah, Ritadvija Maharaj was asking once in the conference that somebody was asking him a question that how can we preach to the Westerners, Americans, how we can, give this knowledge to them. So first he said that if you are thinking that they are a Westerner or American, how can you give this? Srila Prabhupada didn't think them like that when he came. And his vision was this, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. He saw them, in fact, as uh, his own spiritual masters. In one place, he says, I think in a letter or something we read, right, that he says that in fact you are all my spiritual masters, he said. And then he said that you are all representatives of my spiritual master, and my spiritual master has sent you to help me fulfill his order. And he starts crying. This is in a, I think Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's lecture in, I'm not sure, 1974 or 75. If we can find out, at the end of the lecture, he's actually crying, thanking the devotees, and because they are helping him in his mission to fulfill his spiritual master's order. Okay, so text 18.57. Anyone wants to read? Okay, I can read. Chetasa sarva karmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yoga upashritya machitta satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. When one acts in Krishna consciousness, he does not act as the master of the world. Anahankara. This is just like a servant. One should act fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. A servant has no individual independence. He acts only on the order of the master. A servant acting on behalf of the Supreme Master is unaffected by profit and loss. He simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Now, one may argue that Arjuna was acting under the personal direction of Krishna, but when Krishna is not present, how should one act? If one acts according to the direction of Krishna in this book, as well as under the guidance of the representative of Krishna, then the result will be the same. The representative of Krishna is a spiritual master. So you see this again, without humility and without having the real ego that we are the servant of the Lord, how can we serve the Lord? A servant means ready, whatever the master says, no question. Like that brahmachari in the Gurukula, if Krishna gives us what we want, is fine. We are his servant. If Krishna takes away from us what is so dear to us, then also no complaint, we are his servant. Servant means has no individual independence. That's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. That is the attitude that a devotee should have. Yata tatava vidadatu lampado matprananatastu sayeva naparaha. Whatever you are doing, you're fully independent to do whatever you can do. But I'm not going to, you are always my worshipful Lord. So see Queen Kunti, she's an example for this. See, she was how much suffering that she underwent. Not she, basically it's even a mother can undergo sufferings herself, but then it's very hard to see the children and the grandchildren suffering. It's even more so much attached when we get grandchildren. I mean, you can see though, you can ask those who have grandchildren. So she lost her all Draupadi's younger Pandavas were killed. Abhimanyu was killed. I mean, misery after misery. And still what she's saying, if in all these miseries you were with us, Krishna, so now that you think Ete Danin Gadadara, you're going to leave us and go. So better than, let me have those again. And then he's actually she is not, and all her sons and grandsons are suffering. And you can see how detached she is to ask this. But still she asks, Twaime Ananya Vishayar Matir Matupate Asakrat. What is that? Ata Vishwesha Vishwatman Vishwamurte Swakeshme Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi Dridam Pandushu Vrishnishu. That Sneha and Pasha, affection that I have, attachment for those from Pandu's side, from my husband's side or from my mother's side, Vrishni or Pandushu, or anybody who's coming from the line of Pandu or from Vrishnishu, please let me not get attached to them, but let my attachment only flow towards you. So this is what we can see, that no individual independence, no asking of anything, is not affected by profit and loss, simply discharges his duty faithfully in terms of the order of the Lord. Without having the quality of humility, we can't become the servant of the Lord. Without becoming the servant of the Lord, we can't reach him. So in 16.1 purport again, he says, Saucham means cleanliness, not only in mind but body, but in one's dealings also. It is especially meant for the mercantile people who should not deal in the black market. Nati manita, not expecting honor, applies to the Shudras, the worker class, which are considered, according to the Vedic injunctions, to be the lowest of the four classes. They should not be puffed up with unnecessary prestige or honor and should remain in their own status. It is a duty of the Shudras to offer respect to the higher class for the upkeep of the social order. So Shudras means servants, and we are all aspiring to be the servant. That's why we signed, right? Your servant, when we ask questions, when we write everything. So that means what? We should not be puffed up with unnecessary prestige or honor and should remain and should offer all respect to higher classes. Amanina, Manadena, Kirtaniya, Sadahari. So this is the first virtue, humility. So we will pause the discussion here. We just took some excerpts from Bhagavad Gita about what humility is, and this is so that we can think on this, meditate on this, read on this, observe people based on the Shastras. This is called Shastra Chakshus. So when we have knowledge from the Shastras and with that we see the world and people, then we have different realizations, and slowly by the Lord's mercy, by the association of humble devotees, may we also develop humility, which is the first virtue to please the Lord and the spiritual master. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. It was such a heart-touching and very eye-opening class. Your classes are always filled with so many deep realizations. Thank you so much. This class was so beautiful. Thank you, Mataji. Very good. Very grateful.
Thank you so much, Mataji. I am, I mean, this I chose this topic because, by reading on this, then I would remind myself that where I have to go to. So this is, you're all helping me on this path. And so I'm very grateful to you. Thank you.
Anyone has any questions or comments for Mataji? Feel free to ask.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Lakshmi Mataji, hello, pranams.
Yes, Mataji. Very nice class, Mataji. Starting with humility. And the slokas, Prabhupada, Krishna has put humility as the first top priority. So, and you gave a very good explanation, Mataji. So many details, and it was very much helpful for me. Hope to if it helps everybody. Mataji, my question is, say, we have already in the material world, we have seen so many things, and this is a competitive world. We have been fighting, we have been studying, we have been working. Everywhere we have to be in a competition. So the word humility is far, far away.
Right.
So only when I came to Krishna conscious, I keep on hearing this word humility. Never I have heard this word before in my life. So and this is like a sudden shift, Mataji, because wherever you work in the office circle or anywhere you think you cannot follow this humbleness while you're working in a team or somewhere. So I'm just trying to understand, Mataji. So how do we are in two platform, Mataji. We are working or we are in material world, we're dealing with people. You cannot be humble. Somewhere some places sure you cannot be humble because you have to be smart. You have to show your talents or you have to be smart. And in Krishna conscious, while coming to devotion, we talk about humility as a first priority. So it's like like a multiple personality or something. I don't know. Like you're changing, you're shifting, you're putting the gear forward and backward. So I don't know, Mataji, how much I can do it, but I'm still trying to understand. So any ideas, any guidelines, Mataji, in a practical life, how we can implement this humility, humbleness?
Yeah, thank you so much you come up with amazing questions, Mataji. I always feel you must have been a sage who had asked some questions for one of the 108 Upanishads, because your questions are very, very to the point and highly, realizational. And unless one is an very elevated thinking platform, it's hard to get such questions. And also it means that you're trying to practice. So thank you, Mataji, for the question. Many, I have heard this. I myself have asked this, and many people have asked this to various different speakers, and many have given the answer. The thing is, as it is said that here, aspiring to live in a solitary place, that is at one aspect, means that we let me go to that slide, which means actually what, yeah, he says that secluded living, means living in devotee association. So our main identity is we are the servant of the Lord. And who is our master? Krishna is our master. Not anybody in the material world, not this material world. So we have the responsibility to please Krishna, and Krishna puts this as a top priority. So there is no doubt in that we have to develop that. But as you say, very much I agree with that nice observation that the humility means was looked down upon in the spiritual, in the material world. Nobody likes to be humble, and nowhere else it is thought that you need to be humble. That too not in the present generation at all. Even if you know a little bit, you say that you know 100 things after that. So that's what everything is promoting. But even if we are less percentage of people following this very coveted practices, we can make a change. I mean, in fact, it is said that many big revolutions have come from either a single person or a few handful of persons. So definitely we need to practice it. And then in the work environment also, we need to take this jewel. We need to keep this jewel. But wherever it is required, we need to be assertive. I mean, being assertive is different from being arrogant, being proud. In the work environment, whatever, if we see that, there is somebody who's trying to make politics, somebody who's trying to cheat us, that's what people think, that, oh, you are a spiritual person, then you are easily gullible. That's not the point. We need to prove that we are sensible people. We know what's happening. And when you practice all this, when you read this, and when you observe the world, you will know by just the look of a person. If you are talking to a person in 1 minute, you'll know what kind of a person is that. So definitely a spiritual practitioner goes in an elevated platform. Because we get up in the morning and chant, that puts us in the mode of goodness, compared to other people who just jumps out of the bed, spray something, drink a coffee and go. So what we are preparing our consciousness for the day. So with that experience, we can be assertive, we can be goal chasers. If we are managers, we have to make our team. We need to be harsh with someone. We need to be, mild with someone. We need to get the goal done. So all those things are part of the material world, and we do it like being a Roman in Rome. So it is said that among the material people, you act as though you are the best material person. Then they will develop because they have only that as a value. And when you show that you are much more competent, without being proud, without being arrogant, you are competent, much more than any ordinary person. Like, materially you are competent. If you show that, that is also humility for the sake of the Lord. That's what I tell my kids and other students always, that you are studying and then you're wearing kantimala, you are people know that you're a devotee of the Lord. So you getting good marks is a service to the Lord. If you don't get, then they will say that, see, he was chanting and he's doing all this, but look at his grades. So that's not a service to the Lord. So when we are a devotee means expert in everything. So Krishna gives us the knowledge of expertise because of constant connection with him. So we don't switch roles, but maybe we cover our role. We, like in a Roman, be Roman, but in the heart, we always want to be a servant of the Lord, because he is our original master and we are here to please him only. But in a material environment, we don't show that. We show what they value, so that by that we can inspire them to come to devotional service. I had something in my mind to say in this. You see, there are so many people who are high achievers, rich businessmen, diamond jewelers, or people who are IAS officers. Now it's become so common to see a highly placed official, a famous person being a devotee. So this is what my answer is, that we continue to be humble. And yeah, one more thing, this is what I forgot. Srila Prabhupada says that we are lamb at home and lion at chase. At home, we practice humility and tolerance, and then you can see Srila Prabhupada's lectures, Srila Prabhupada's conversations. He was humble, but he was humble with Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He was humble with his disciples. He was humble with those who were humbly serving him. But if others who challenge him, he will make them feel miserable. He was asking them left, right questions that they can't even answer that. He will crush their false ego like that. So how? He is as soft as a rose and as hard as a thunderbolt also. So these are not artificial impositions, but by reading, by observing, by applying, then slowly, we know how to, balance whatever roles that we have to play. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yes, very much, Mataji. That helps very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. And one more question, Mataji. You were telling that Krishna says, one who studies Bhagavad Gita is worshipping me with his intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I was a little bit trying to understand, Mataji, because you know that mind, intelligence, false ego, it comes under the subtle body. And so how do you worship with intelligence? Like the prayers are different, worshipping is different, chanting is different. How can you use the intelligence as a tool to worship Krishna? That's a little bit new for me. I couldn't understand it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to that verse, chapter 18. And I declare that he who studies the sacred conversation, Adhyeshyate cha ya imam dharmyam samvadam avayoho jnana yajnena tenaham ishtasyam itime matihi. And I declare that he who studies this sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. Because anyway, intelligence is for discrimination, right? And then intelligence is for purifying also. Because basically mind is most powerful, but with intelligence we fix our goal. Like many people, they they fix their goal that I want to come to US and I want to be here and I want to work in this company and that company and this, or I want to become a vice president, CEO of this. So this is the work of the intelligence. After setting the goal, then mind and senses are going in a chase to achieve it. So when we study the sacred conversation of the Lord, our intelligence is purified because we know what we are and how we discriminate, right, between temporary and permanent, between things to be done and things should not be done, between people whom we should associate with, between people whom we don't associate with. So the whole intelligence is actually washed. That's why, when somebody says that your what to say, your movement is brainwashing, Srila Prabhupada said, yes, brains are dirty, they have to be washed. That day somebody was talking on Prabhu and he was telling that he likes how Prabhupada comes back on this with a reporter or with anyone, any conversation. I mean, he was far above them in catching them, in putting arguments, in pinpointing them, so that they would not forget that interaction forever. So basically the point is our intelligence is become purified and our goals are changed based on that, based on the Bhagavad Gita. And then we with intelligence only we are reading, right? Of course mind is there, mind is like calmly listening now, but intelligence is functioning when we read, when we understand, when we discuss. So that's why he says that worships by his intelligence, because what that faculty does with that, if we engage in the Lord's service, that is worshipping of the Lord by that faculty that's given to us.
Yes, Mataji. So the mind actually it listens to the intelligence. It follows what the intelligence says. So
Right.
once the intelligence is purified, then we put the purified ideas or the devotion. The mind will follow it, and the senses will again follow it.
Right, right. But there are some obstacles in that. Not always mind doesn't want to follow it, but again and again, repeatedly giving this, then the mind has no choice.
Yes. Okay. Yes, Mataji. Now that I can understand.
Yeah.
Nice, Mataji.
For
Very
example, Mataji, recently I was like so much of anxiety and in a lamentation mode that I could have done this, I could have done this, we could have done this. And once when I was offering obeisances, it was like somebody laughing at me. See how you are lamenting. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kankshati, but your life has become full of lamentation. I mean, this voice, I can say that because of association of devotees, listening to lectures and reading Bhagavad Gita again and again, this totally calmed the mind. Mind is for giving so many reasons to be morose, to lament and to hanker. But intelligence, when it is filled with spiritual knowledge, then it like cuts the mind of the afflictions.
Okay, Mataji. So even though our mind is sometimes agitated or disturbed, but when we have a pure intelligence, like Krishna conscious intelligence, we can overcome it. We can overcome the agitations of the mind.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, that's wonderful, Mataji. So that shows how much important Bhagavad Gita is, the pure intelligence, how much important it is.
Very true. Yeah, very true. Yeah. If for 2 days, if we don't hear Bhakti Sangha lectures, don't read, don't think, we will all become like Halloween cobwebs and haunted houses. Because if this is not put in, junk will go inside.
Yeah.
Because junk is already inside, junk is outside. This only is not junk, all these things. But if this is not there, junk from inside will come, junk from outside will come, and we will find ourselves covered in a trash. Yeah.
Wonderful, Mataji. So nice, Mataji. Okay, Mataji, like I got my answers. So thank you so much, Mataji, for such a wonderful class.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much for constantly texting us. Every Tuesday I think, oh, I didn't prepare. It's not fair that I can give class without preparing, and then your text comes. I was about to text Preeti Vilasni Mataji telling that let it go this week, but then I saw your text, then I started preparing. Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, but because based on your class schedule only, I have to go to my Bhagavatam class. So actually, I am sacrificing Bhagavatam class for Bhagavad Gita class.
Oh, Krishna, I don't know if that is any worth, but yeah, but your questions and your attendance inspires us, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's so worth, Mataji. It's a treasure for me, Bhagavad Gita class, and your explanations. You always it clears my, as you said, as Prabhupada said, it washes the brain, it washes the intelligence, it clears me. So thank you so much, Mataji. We'll be waiting for your next class next Tuesday. Jai Satchinandana, Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Yeah, so we'll, anybody else has any questions?
Thank you so much, Mataji. Very, very wonderful discussion and a beautiful, beautiful class to be saved. Very nice, Mataji. Thank you so much. Anyone else wants to add or ask anything? Okay,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
I have a question. So, like right now, like we discussed about intelligence and mind. So, how do we differentiate whether, like right now, I'm thinking with like, am I using my intelligence or mind? Like,
yeah, this is. I mean, normally we can see that. Normally 90% of the time it's the mind who it's the closest Mind is the one who's giving so many things, this and that, do this, do that, and it will all be if the mind is I don't know if you have this experience. If after chanting 16 rounds, if you had finished your 16 rounds and that 15-20 minutes, if you had chanted continuously at least for an hour or so, you can see that you are in that some field, from electric field, and that vibration that is there for the next half an hour. Until then again we go into something else, absorb ourselves in this. So unless at that time mind will be thinking differently than the other times. At least for a person who's practicing like me, that's what I have. There are great devotees whose mind is their friend, but for me that's what I have experienced, that so that's why Srila Prabhupada also says, constantly chant as much as possible, remind yourself. So basically, mostly it is from mind. And if you see that there is something different, that it looks like instructions from Bhagavad Gita, then that is from intelligence, and that could be from the super soul. And if you are engrossed in something and you get a thought that gives you a shastric perspective of what's going on, that means that is from the super soul, from intelligence. Otherwise your mind tries to pacify the ego. Yeah, you are very much suffering. Yeah, that devotee did that to you. You are a great person, he shouldn't have done all that. All these things are from the mind generally. So we can see based on the shastric how close it is to the instructions of the shastras. With that we can check whether it's from the mind or intelligence.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji, for regularly attending these classes. Thank you. So we'll end the call.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you again so much, and thanks to everyone who joined this very fantastic session. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakote Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Her praise Lalitangi Radha Mataji ki
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Bhakti Sangha Japa Group ki jai, Opportunity ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Mataji.